chalice.
A chalice!
Welcome back, treasure seekers. Today we step into Chapter 9 of There's Treasure Inside. This chapter is bold, lush, and layered. It's titled The Golden Chalice and Confirmation Bias. Two seemingly unrelated ideas that, by the end of this chapter, collide in a way only Jon Collins could deliver. We begin with an image, a golden cup, ornate, ancient, on page 86. This isn't just a pretty artifact, it's a ritual vessel from the Chavin culture, deep in the Peruvian Andes, a civilization that predates the Incas, flourishing between 900 and 200 BCE. Collins tells us outright, this chalice is part of the treasure, and that's a bold statement in a book where everything is a riddle. The Chavin people used this kind of vessel not just for decoration, but for spiritual transformation. They were oracles, shamans, carvers of stone, and builders of a culture where every pathway aligned with the cosmos. But just a few paragraphs later, Collins jumps from Peru to a Christmas Eve church service from his childhood. Candlelight, hymns, the quiet magic of memory. At first it seems like whiplash, from ancient South American ritual to modern American worship. But look again. Both moments center on a shared cup, a sacred vessel, a chalice passed from hand to hand, be it filled with water, wine, or wonder. Chapter 9 is split, almost evenly. First, the spiritual legacy of Chavin de Huantar, high in the Peruvian Andes, a place I personally love. Then, Jon's memory of a quiet Christmas Eve service, a childhood moment steeped in reverence and tradition, and somehow, these two experiences mirror each other. Ritual, reflection, and something sacred passed hand to hand. I couldn't help but think of Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade. You know the scene, the Grail Knight guarding a room of glittering goblets, and Indy has to choose. One cup will bring healing, the wrong one, death. The true Grail? It wasn't flashy, it wasn't royal, it was simple, humble, hidden in plain sight, and choosing the wrong one, deadly.
That's the cup of a carpenter.
So when Collins shows us the image of the Chavin gold vessel, it's not just a symbol of treasure, it's a symbol of belief, engineered belief. The priests of Chavin weren't just serving drink from that cup, they were pouring stories, power, doctrine, and maybe, just maybe. Jon's asking us the same thing this chapter warns about. What chalice are you drinking from? And who convinced you it's gold?
The chalices.
Then Collins drops a term that every treasure hunter, puzzle solver, and researcher needs to tattoo on their brain. Confirmation bias. It's the tendency to see only what supports your theory and ignore everything that doesn't. When you're holding this book in your hands, flipping through pages, circling words, scanning maps, it's tempting to force meaning into every symbol. But the trap is real. Once your brain wants something to be a clue, you'll start seeing evidence for it everywhere. Before we tighten our headlamps and drop into the tunnels of Chavin de Huantar, let's do a quick pulse check on the theories exploding across Discord, Reddit, and the mysterious writing blog. Because Chapter 9 might be the single most speculated about section of There's Treasure Inside, second only to the Pokemon. Observation number 1. Chapters 9 and 13 are the only chapters that reprint the book's title as a header, There's Treasure Inside. Some sharp-eyed reader noticed 9th and 13th letters of the alphabet are M and I, which instantly sparked Michigan, Lion's Share box in the Great Lakes, supporting evidence? The treasure's called the Lion's Share, Detroit Lions maybe? Reach? Possibly, but you can see why the theory sticks. Pagination glitches, missing page 90 and Jordan card, mix-up, clue or printing error. Page 90 in Chapter 9 doesn't exist. Chapter 13 mislabels Michael Jordan's rookie card photo, claims page 112, lives on page 115. Treasure hunters know sometimes the mistake is the message. But as Jon reminds us, sometimes a typo is just a typo. The door handle's shadow, Nevada or Indiana. Next rabbit hole, page 94. A young woman reaches for a door handle. Her sleeve creates a long arrow rising from a notch in the shadow. Remove the notch, the remaining silhouette kind of echoes Nevada's border. Flip it horizontally, and you could argue Indiana. Nevada, Indiana, or is that just pareidolia? Up to you. Jon's subtitle. Confirmation bias might be waving a caution flag right here. Mysterious Writing Blog. Jon's own advice. Mysterious Writing pulled direct quotes where Jon defines confirmation bias and flat out warns us not to fall for our favorite shiny theory. He even inserts the line, "Look both ways before crossing." Translation, we are crossing a road. Jon says it is the tendency to interpret new evidence as confirmation of one's existing beliefs or theories. He also offers advice on how to avoid it. If we want to find the treasures we are seeking, we must remain rooted onto the firm ground of reality. Nothing good was ever gained by rushing to a false conclusion. Confirmation bias should be avoided at any cost. After stating this, Jon goes on to describe the Chavin culture and their mysterious, powerful ceremonies. How the high priest created experiences through natural means. But those persons involved believed these experiences were produced by the gods. Jon says the golden chalice, included in one of the treasure boxes, may have even been used during the experiences. It's interesting, those taking part in this supernatural experience are being falsely led, of which Jon refers to having suffered from confirmation bias. He writes how they were fooled. What but the gods themselves could have created such a place? It's almost as if here Jon is hinting to red herrings in the book. These false leads have us ignoring other options or clues being given in another way. We open chapter 9 with not one, but two razor-sharp quotes that slice right into the heart of what this chapter, and arguably this entire treasure hunt, is about. The least questioned assumptions are often the most questionable. Paul Broca. The explanation requiring the fewest assumptions is most likely to be correct. William of Ockham. Let's pause here. These two quotes form a philosophical double blade. On one side, Broca warns us, just because an idea feels normal or obvious doesn't mean it's right. And on the other, William of Ockham, the Franciscan friar and medieval genius, says, hey, the simpler answer? That's probably the one. This is the famous Occam's razor. Not a real blade, but a way of trimming down assumptions. And in treasure hunting, assumptions can lead you deep into the weeds. Occam lived during the 1300s in Surrey, England. A friar, a philosopher, a bit of a rebel. He questioned church doctrine and championed logical clarity in a world of wild superstition. His core idea was this: don't add extra complexity if you don't have to. Now that doesn't mean ignore mystery, but it means don't force it. So what does this mean for us? It means Jon is telling us right up front. Before you get tangled in riddles and over-engineered explanations, check your logic. This book is full of symbols, artwork, poems, and layered references. But if your theory needs 10 separate leaps to make it work, Occam says, probably not the right one. And here's where the trap gets sticky. We're looking for treasure. We want patterns. We want the grail. But Jon pairs this chapter's golden chalice with confirmation bias, the tendency to shape all evidence around what we already believe. Chapter 9 doesn't tiptoe. It thrusts the Oxford Dictionary definition of confirmation bias in bold type, the tendency to interpret new evidence as confirmation of one's existing beliefs or theories. Then Jon Collins adds a warning almost poetic in its menace. Confirmation bias is an alluring spider entangling treasure seekers in its web. Notice what just happened. In previous chapters, we talked non-stop about threads and weaving. Chapter 9 escalates that same imagery into a spider in a web. Threads that once looked helpful now become traps. Collins doubles down, writing, if we want to find the treasures we seek, we must remain rooted to firm ground. Rooted, like a tree trunk anchoring silk lines. Suddenly, we have three motifs converging. Thread, web, roots, or rather rooted trees. For many readers, web plus spider immediately conjures Charlotte's Web. Charlotte A. Cavatica, an orb weaver just like the real barn spiders across North America. She spins a single phrase, some pig, and the entire barnyard bends its reality to believe Wilbur is special. That is confirmation bias in action. One spectacular piece of silk, and suddenly every bystander sees what they want to see. But in native cosmology, particularly Navajo and Hopi, the spider isn't merely persuasive. She is creator. Piter woman, Hopi, Naashye Asza, Navajo, weaves the very fabric of existence. She molds the first humans from clay. She teaches weaving, agriculture, survival. Her web is the blueprint of interconnected life. Hopi weavings include a deliberate spirit line, a tiny break at the border where Spider-Woman can slip inside, inspect, and bless the work. That break reminds the weaver, perfection is illusion. Humility invites insight. Collins drops the word venom nearby, a reminder that a spider is both giver and taker. Grandmother Spider's kindness flips to danger when children misbehave. Translation for us? Knowledge can nourish or poison, depending how we handle it. He tells us to stay rooted in many treasure lore circles that echoes blaze marks on trees, tangible ground truth versus wispy theories. So the chapter's chessboard now looks like this. Web equals alluring clue network, easy to misread. Root equals physical anchor, undeniable evidence. Weaver, you, the hunter, choosing which strands to keep. Next, we step fully into the tunnels of Chavin de Huantar, where priests once harnessed echo and shadow, weaving fear like silk. Stay grounded, keep your razor sharp, and remember, not every glittering line in the dark leads to treasure. Some lead straight into a spider's dinner.